Hey, thanks for checking out Things I Learned Last Night. This is an educational comedy podcast, and today we are talking about the Best Friends Animal Society. In this episode, we kind of dig into their history. It's a little sketchy. We find out how culty their background is.
Slightly culty.
Yeah, and how connected they are to some pretty sketchy people in the past. It's a lot of fun.
That's true. If you've got a time machine, you can go back in time to some of the shows I did last month. April was very busy for me. May's a little slower, just chilling out. So sorry you missed them. But this is a comedy podcast where we learn stuff. And one of the ways to help us grow this show is to share it with somebody. So please do that. Send this episode. Don't even listen to it yet. Send it unlistened and share it with a friend. That's also pretty culty.
That is a pretty culty thing to do.
We're going to get into their weird history.
Yep. And so they built this like resort where you bring your pets. And then you're like, let's go volunteer. Pretty clever. And so I'm going to show you some of their marketing material. And this is, I don't know how long I can leave this on screen. So you need to look because we might get demonetized if I leave this up too long.
Oh, that is Things I Learned Last Night.
Hey, man.
What's up?
Have you ever heard of the Best Friends Animal Society?
The Best Friends Animal Society. BFAS.
Yes.
BFAS. No.
So the Best Friends Animal Society is a nonprofit organization in Kanab, Utah. Here's an aerial view of their facilities. A very large animal sanctuary. And you can kind of tell.
I was going to say, I can see little fence lines. Looks, first glance, off an aerial photo, clean setup.
Yeah.
Sometimes you see some of these, at-home farms or whatever.
Yeah.
That are not.
Yeah. This is not that. This is very well done. And they even named each of their zones. There's the Dogtown, Cat World, Horse House. Like they've got names.
It's
for all
called
of their
Horse House?
areas. I don't know. I don't know what the horses area is. I made that one up, but they can take it if they want it.
Okay.
They are this animal shelter is famous for a couple of reasons. One, in the 90s, it started in the 90s, and it was kind of a pioneer in the no-kill movement.
Okay.
And so they're like, hey, we don't kill any of our animals.
Only our workers.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
There's no retirement plans.
No retirement plans. We just let them stay here until it ends. They're also famous for taking in about half of Michael Vick's dogs. So they took 22 of his dogs in.
He had 40-something dogs?
Yeah, he had 47.
I guess I don't know about all the Michael Vicks. We were young when that happened.
Yeah, it's pretty sketchy. It's very sketchy. He had like a full ring going on.
Yeah.
Like people.
I mean, I know that.
And,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. So yeah, they're famous for both of those things. Recently, they were in the news again because they had a really great idea. They said, hey, we are a nonprofit organization.
Yeah.
We have a lot of employees that do the work, but there's a lot of work to do. I mean, you see how
big this place is.
You saw the scale of this. Like, I mean, this is a big campus. You got Dogtown and Cat World. There's a lot of turtle.
Horse House. Turtletopia.
There's a lot of places going on here.
Canary Canopy.
There's a lot of work. And they said, you know what, we need volunteers.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, Kanab, Utah, the thing you need to recognize about Kanab, Utah, is the location's a beautiful area.
Utopia. So annoying.
The location's a beautiful area. It's just north of the North Rim of Antarctica. The Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Just like
southern Utah.
Just northwest of Monument Valley, just west of Lake Powell, just south of what's that place called? I'm drawing a blank.
Salt Lake?
No, I mean it is south of Salt Lake, but not like just,
like the national park or whatever that's there?
Yeah, there's a national park right there that's super cool. Like
the dunes?
So sick. Not the dunes. It's another canyon, but it's like a really lush canyon, and it's like trees and stuff and plants, but it's like the Grand Canyon if the Grand Canyon had plants.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about? No. It's super famous. This is going to drive me crazy. I'm going to remember halfway through this episode. Alex, you know what I'm talking about? Okay.
Yellowstone.
This is Zion National Park.
Oh, there you go.
So it's a beautiful area, but there's also just not a lot of people that live in that area. So they don't have a lot of access to volunteers. So they had a genius idea recently.
Let's get the Mormons involved.
They said, let's build a hotel for you and your pet. So they've got a hotel that's like a pet-friendly hotel. So you're supposed
That's kind of cute though.
Yeah, and so like you come in and
my wife would love that.
The king suites have like dog houses built into them. So they're like
because that comes out from underneath the bed.
Yeah, so this is this is like the standard suite.
Hotels are always like, bring your dogs, never your cats.
Well, they've got everything for your pets.
When we moved, we had our cats in the car and we stayed at like 2 hotels on the way out because we had to stop. And I love my wife. She doesn't stay in hotels as often as I do.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm not going to tell them we're bringing our cats in. I'm not going to pay the thing.
Yeah.
And so she was like, what if they catch us? I was like, they're not, like, no one at the front desk is like, where are those cats going? Which room are you guys in? No one's paid the pet bill. Like, just walk in with them.
Yeah.
And so, but she was looking super sketch as we have these cat carriers covered with blankets. They look like bags of drugs.
They look like microwaves.
That's what I'm saying. Were you guys trying to sneak a microwave into here?
You can't bring microwaves into a hotel. They've already got microwaves in there. You're not allowed to bring your own microwave to a hotel. That's the number one rule of hotels. You can't bring your own microwave. But yeah, so
that's the number one rule. It's a bigger fine than smoking in the room.
Yeah. It's important to them.
Or killing someone.
They bought the microwave. What's the point of them buying a microwave for the room if you're just going to
most of my hotels don't have microwaves anymore.
That's so annoying.
No hotel in Vegas has microwaves. Did you know that?
Was there a reason for that?
Or fridges.
They want you to go down
and eat. They don't have a refrigerator
eat.
in the room.
They want you to go down and eat, spend money.
Yeah. And they don't want you to have leftovers.
Jacked up.
Yeah. They don't have, you can get a refrigerator in your room for $25 a night.
Do they roll it in like one of those extra beds?
Yes, they do.
We
found
size?
that out on our honeymoon. Nope, it's the smallest. It's not even like think of what a mini fridge looks like. It's half of that.
It's a miniature version of a mini fridge.
It's a micro
mini fridge.
Just use the ice chest at that point.
I'm seeing what you mean. But yeah, so they built this hotel.
Yeah.
And it's actually kind of cool. They got the dog houses, but it's not like they put a dog house in the room. It's like they built it into the walls, and it's like they've got a place that can run up through the walls and like come out to. It's like really cool for the dogs.
Yeah.
And then they've got like all these places, like they've got a dog run, they've got a park. They have cat stuff too. They've got bird stuff. They've got stuff for literally any pet you could possibly have.
Do they let you bring your bird and then let my cats chase your bird? So my wife wants us to get. I didn't know this. I know we're getting to the episode, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Parrots.
Yeah.
Like the red, blue macaw.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How long do you think those live?
50 years.
Did you know that? It's like 60 to 70 years.
Yeah, that's absurd.
So there's a family member that we've got who is trying to figure out who to give her macaw to. Because she's going to die before it.
Oh, yeah. And are you guys trying to get it?
Reagan's ears
really wants it.
Perked up whenever that conversation happened. She was like, huh?
Can I have it? I want it.
Yeah, because apparently like they're like mischievous.
Yeah, they are.
They'll like learn to bark like your dog.
Yeah.
Like if you got a macaw, it would be like, and then you'd be like, Quincy, shut the heck up.
And Quincy's like,
and then the bird will like be in your bed and it'll pull the blankets over itself and go, like they're like little monsters, man. And that like appeals to Reagan a lot.
She's like, yeah,
she's
fun.
like, I really want that in my house.
It's so fun. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, we have a 2-bedroom apartment in Los Angeles. Did you know there are wild parrots in Los Angeles? I didn't know that
Wild?
Either. Wild. Like they are.
Do they?
So in the 50s, somebody brought over their parrots.
Yeah.
Like these green macaws.
Yeah.
And then they either got out or they were let loose. And now that I know how long they live, I'm now thinking like it might straight up be, it was the 50s or 60s.
First generation.
It might be the same birds.
That's crazy.
And so.
Do they talk?
They're so loud. Yeah.
Do they talk?
They don't
They
talk.
just say the same stuff that they whenever a fire engine drives by, they go, yeah!
that crazy guy. He's talking to him all the time. No, they don't say they are very loud though. They talk to each other. They're very like
yep.
They're super
They sound like the bird from Aladdin.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. But yeah, if you look at the hotel website, like it lists all these things for your pets to do while they're there, and they've got pet places and things for them to do.
Pet spa, pet massage.
Yeah, it's all stuff like that. And then they list things to do for people. They literally have them separate.
Nothing.
They've got a couple things. It's like
we got an outdoor pool,
vegan continental breakfast. Yeah, pool. The first thing in the list though is volunteer at the Best Friends Animal Society. And so they built this like resort where you bring your pets, and then you're like, let's go volunteer. Pretty clever.
Actually, that's a good business model.
Yeah, it's pretty clever.
Funny.
They're also famous for Angel's Rest, is what they call it. This is it's exactly what it sounds like.
It's a cemetery.
Yeah, it's a pet cemetery, which is creepy.
That's fine.
I don't know. Cemeteries are scary, especially for animals.
We should do an episode on cemeteries, because I was looking at a way of how Europe does their cemeteries versus how the United States does their cemeteries, and how our system is literally just nights. There's no way we can keep this up.
Really?
Yeah, we're going to run out of room.
Interesting. I always thought it was kind of weird how much we respect the dead. Anyways.
Hey, it's me again. Thanks for being here for this episode. If you like what we're doing, it does cost us money to do this. And so just think about that. That's it. I'm kidding. No, we have Patreon supporters, and it really helps us to make this show possible. Honestly, we're so grateful for everyone who listens to the show. But there's people who want to make more of it happen, and so they financially support the show, and you get a lot back for it. You get our private Discord where we chat every day. We're hanging out and just getting to bond and hang out. We also do live Zoom hangouts for our Patreon supporters. You get exclusive merch. It's a good time. There's a lot in it for you, and it's a lot in it for us because we get to know you better. You're not just a number in a stat board or whatever, but you're our friends, and we appreciate you a lot. So consider doing that. If not, then you can listen to this dumb little ad, because that's how we're going to get money from you. We're going to leech from you either way. We're going to get paid. We're in this for the cold hard cash, baby. Anyway, here's an ad.
How do they get it though? I realized I forgot to put a CTA in mine.
Oh, dang, you were doing gummit.
Yeah.
They can text TILLN to 66866.
Thanks, Jared. Okay, so here's...
Disrespect the Dead sounds like what a metal band screams when it's like they'd make the wall.
Yeah.
And then it's like... Disrespect the Dead. I mean, I'll tell you what, my brain does come up with some pretty good breakdown riffs. I should be a chugger. That's what they're called.
I think you're right. That is what they call them.
Chugs.
Yeah, this is our guitarist. This is our bassist. This is our drummer. That's our chugger. This is honestly all I've got to talk about. I think I'm out of... No, I'm kidding.
Great.
Here's the thing.
Yeah, why does this get interesting? This seems like a paid advertisement for this hotel. They've got wonderful amenities. You can stay there. You can volunteer for their thing.
Well, wait till you hear the rest of it. It's going to sound a lot less like a paid advertisement. So this the organization that started the Best Friends Society is an organization that's been around since '66.
Yeah,
but in '66 it was a little different.
It's called the Mormon Church.
It was called the Process Church of the Final Judgment.
Oh, is it a...
So this is
It's a cult.
So the
it's a cult, baby. Let's get into it.
So it was started by these two individuals, Marianne McLean and Robert Day Grimston. They were Robert.
Some of their mugshots. I assume they've got them. These mugshots?
I don't know if they're mugshots or passport photos. I can't really tell.
Wow. When you see the image of Robert, is that his name, Robert?
Yeah, Robert de Grimston.
This guy looks like a cult. Imagine a cult leader. Yeah, that's him.
He looks like, in my opinion, he looks like Zorro.
That's what I'm saying. Like he looks...
He looks like he's going to cut you with the thinnest
got like those
sword you've ever seen.
defined cheekbones. Very handsome guy.
Yeah, I would follow him to the ends of the earth. What do you want me to do? Tell me, Robert. Yeah. I'll do it. Whatever you want me to do, I'm doing it. So Robert was an architecture student.
Sure.
That's how all cults begin. If you like shapes that much, you're going to start a weird religion.
Dude, all architects are psychos, man.
So he...
architecture students, not architects. People who...
Yeah.
Well, architects.
Yeah. So he was an architecture student. After architecture school, him and all of his architecture colleagues kind of lost touch with each other for a while.
Okay.
Because all of his colleagues went and they got jobs in architecture.
Sure.
They're like, we're going to be architects now. And he said, I'm going to check out this sweet new thing called Scientology. And so he went to Scientology for a minute, started learning a little bit about what they're doing. And this is early Scientology. This is before Scientology learned that if they
he was like, oh, you guys are just making this up.
No, it was before.
Oh, boy.
It was before Scientology found out that if they made it a religion, then they were like exempt from a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And so he was learning about Scientology and he was like, this is really interesting. But he defected from Scientology because he said, hey, they were using those little e-machines or whatever they called them, where they held onto the poles. And he's like, all you guys are trying to do is make everybody just little L. Ron Hubbards. And he's like, I don't want a bunch of L. Ron Hubbards. He's like, I think you guys are using the machine wrong. And he's like, if we get the machines, we can find out who people really are and get their Enneagram type. He didn't call it that, but that's basically what he was saying. He said, we can figure out who people really are and then help guide them through their life in the proper way if we use these machines properly. So he bought a bunch of machines from the people who were manufacturing them, which were chiropractors. And he took one of the Scientologists he met, Marianne McLean, and he said, let's go to London and let's call up a bunch of my architecture friends. I bet they'll be down to do this with us.
Yeah.
And so they go, and at first it wasn't like a church because even the Church of Scientology hadn't figured this out yet. So this was really, really early in this era. They were calling it compulsions analysis. And so it was kind of like almost like a psychology thing. Like they learned a lot from Alfred Adler.
Yep.
And they were using psychology and these e-machine things to understand who you are as a person and help you live as that person and like live towards your strengths. It really was a personality assessment, basically, is what they were starting. And so they get a group together and they're doing all this research and they're helping people find what they are. And then it came time to name their personality types. And so they said, what are the 4 personality types we got here? And they did what was really logical. And they said, there's 4 personality types.
Right.
You're either a Jehovah, a Jesus, a Satan, or a Lucifer. As the 4 that they picked. I don't know why.
I know why. Okay.
And then they said, hey, we need to come up with a logo. And they were like,
what if it's a cross on fire?
They were like, hey, we love shapes. We're architects. We love shapes.
Okay.
And so I'm going to show you some of their marketing material. And this is, I don't know how long I can leave this on screen. So you need to look, and it's going to be quick because we might get demonetized if I leave this up too long.
Oh, that is...
It's exactly what you think it is. It's pretty...
swastika.
Yeah, it's very swastika. They say it's the 4 Ps. There are 4 Ps interlaid next to each other, but they don't look like that. They look very different than that.
Yeah, it's red.
Yeah, it's red and it's very swastika-ish.
Yeah.
And so they got some negative publicity in the community, especially in Europe in like the 60s. People were like, hey, I remember that.
Not long ago enough.
Like, this is an insane thing
Not
to
that there's
say.
enough long ago, but this certainly isn't.
Yeah, this is pretty recent still.
Yeah.
And these people were like, hey, we're just architects. We just love shapes, okay? Like, it's not, we didn't even realize it. You thought that
You're
way.
You're
the one with your mind in the gutter.
In the gutter.
Like, we just like cool shapes. That's a cool, you gotta admit it's a cool shape.
Yeah.
So because of all this negative press, they're like, we need to rebrand. And so they're looking into it, and
people are saying our logo looks
a little suspect.
Huh.
But here's the thing.
Yeah, that was Subway's original logo too.
It's just two S's.
It's two S's. I don't know what to tell you guys.
I don't know. What do you think? So they rebranded, but here's the thing. This was during a time when like a lot of people were starting to get into starting cults.
Okay.
And they were like, hey, if we start a church, like we get this tax exempt status and all this stuff. And there's a lot of benefits to being a church. And people are more likely to donate to a church than they are to a business.
Right.
So they decided they were a church. And so they became the Process Church of the Final Judgment. Ironically, they rebranded, didn't change the logo. So yeah, we're the Process Church of the Final Judgment, and
same logo.
Their theology was that it was a branch of neo-Gnosticism. I don't know if you're familiar with this. It was really popular in this era.
Yeah.
Basically, that there is that God and Satan were like two equivalent deities that are at war with each other. And in this era, a lot of people in this era, especially in like the hippie world and in the cult world, were like, oh, Satan's actually the good guy. God is the bad guy and he's tricking us.
Yeah.
And so a lot of them started worshiping Satan. They took it in a different angle. What they said was that, okay, God is the good guy, Satan is the bad guy, but it's like a yin and yang. They're two parts of one whole, and they are getting ready to merge together to be unified and back into one deity, and that's going to spark the end of the world. And they're like, and it's coming soon. And so
it always is.
Yeah, and so they were like, when that happens, we'll have the final judgment. That's why it's in the name. But it's interesting. I saw somebody mention in an interview about this, talking about this is the Cold War, and so obviously when all this stuff was happening, was it actually
imminent.
was like, and it wasn't really out that far fetched. Like it actually was pretty like
we're closer to it now than they were then.
Yeah, the end of the world.
Oh, I mean, like if that war broke out.
Oh yeah. There was,
but we just don't live in the fear for some reason.
Yeah, we're all in denial.
We probably should be a little more afraid.
Probably should be scared. They were terrified.
Every top intelligence agency actually says that, because we're all like, oh, it would never happen because we would all shoot each other. And every top intelligent officer is just like, I mean, it could happen.
It could happen. Yeah.
So anyway, just have fun on your morning commute. Good morning.
Good day. Happy day. Yeah, and that's how they all felt. They all felt, and they accurately, that at any moment, some person in power could just decide to launch the nukes and then the world's over.
Yep.
And so there was these kind of religious movements of like, hey, the world's about to end. And so we need to prepare for the end of the world. And everybody was kind of defining what that meant. And then they did some sketchy things. Like they decided, hey, what if we wore these cool robes with our logo on them?
It does not get better at all.
And then we wore our hair really long and grew out big beards. And then on top of that, they were super evangelistic. They would go around in the community and
in their robes,
just like that. And they'd be like, "Hey, have you ever heard of Satan?" People would be like, "Yeah, I've heard of him."
You know that everything you know about Satan is a lie. Everything you've been told about the Dark Lord is actually incorrect.
Incorrect. So they got a pretty bad reputation in the UK, and so they said, "Hey, things aren't going great here. What if we?" I don't know.
Move to Utah?
On the beach somewhere.
Oh.
And so they went to Nassau, Bahamas and stayed there for a little bit. And in Bahamas, the people, Nassau.
Where?
NASA.
Uh-huh.
They went to NASA.
They went where?
Nassau, Bahamas. What are you looking at me like that for?
Okay, go ahead.
Do you think I'm wrong? Is there something I'm saying that's wrong? That's exactly what I'm saying.
Bahamas.
Am I saying it wrong? Say Bahamas.
The Bahamas?
Alex, say Bahamas.
Bahamas?
Bahamas?
That's what I'm saying. And
no.
you're acting like I'm saying it wrong. Bahamas.
I'm tired of you gaslighting me on this show.
I'm tired of you gaslighting me. I'm saying Bahamas. I'm saying the same thing you're saying.
You're saying
it's the same exact word.
Bahamas. I'm saying Bahamas.
That's the same thing. It's the same picture.
Okay, I'm gonna say three different things.
Okay.
Bahamas.
Yes.
Bahamas.
Okay, that's obviously different.
Bahamas.
Yes. That's what I'm saying.
No.
Oh my gosh, man.
All right, let me tell the rest of the story.
I was not even trying to do one of the, you're saying it weird. You're just, okay. I was making sure that Bahamas wasn't some place that I didn't know about. I know about the Bahamas. Bahama.
Hey,
you're saying Bahamas. That's where it is.
It's
Bahamas. Bahamas is not the same. Missouri. Which one's wrong?
That's different.
It's literally
That's
not
even
literally
close
the
to
IDA, literally the same exact
here's the
thing.
deal. So they go to Bahamas and they are there for a minute.
Sure.
A few months, couldn't really get established there.
We don't like the beach, actually. There's too much sand.
Yeah, they said, what if we were actually in Mexico? So they go to Mexico and they're there for a minute and they're like, we don't like this. Let's go to the Yucatan Peninsula. Still Mexico, but just different part of it. And they're there for a little while and they love it. They're like, this is the place for us. And so they start trying to like build a village there, but there was another village already there. And they're like, what are you guys doing? And they're like, you can't just come in. And they're like, okay, I guess you're right. We should go. And so they go to LA for a minute, leave LA.
LA was pretty culty in the 60s.
Yeah, they go there, but Scientology was there. And Scientology was like, wait, you're using our machines? And they're like, you're right. We'll get out of here.
No.
No. Our machines. They end up going to
Bahamas.
They end up going to southern Utah. And then things work out for them. They end up setting up branches in New York, New Orleans, LA, Mexico, like all these places that they kind of like tested out for their HQ. They start setting up these branches.
Got it.
And they had an interesting model that I'm going to be honest with you, I think somebody's borrowed recently. They said, what if we build these little communes where everyone can live?
Okay.
And then near it, we build a coffee shop. And then we can welcome people into the coffee shop. And while people are there hanging out, drinking coffee, reading, we can meet them, build relationship, and then tell them about our Lord and Savior, Satan.
Who's borrowed it?
Oh, just.
And also the coffee shop is non-taxable because it's part of our church.
It's part of our church. So
that's sketchy.
Yeah, very sketchy. And so they're setting up all these coffee shops all over the country.
I want people to know. I had a friend who told me that what I'm doing, because I do comedy shows at churches, is I could establish myself as a ministry and I wouldn't have to pay taxes.
Yeah.
That's what you know, that I'm not going to do that.
That I pay taxes.
I pay taxes because I am not going to take advantage of the system.
Yeah. Well, you don't pay taxes. You're planning to eventually pay taxes one day.
I'm on a payment plan.
I'm planning.
I reluctantly pay taxes.
I reluctantly plan to pay taxes eventually.
Yeah.
But as for me in a house,
if I don't
today,
have to,
if there's a way I can get out of it, I would.
I try so hard,
but only legally. I only do it legally.
I don't know. I might become a ministry. We'll see.
And so they start like evangelizing this new religion.
Mm-hmm.
And then something interesting happens. This movement becomes linked to two very significant people. You might know them as Charles Manson and the Son of Sam.
How?
Hey, thanks for checking out this episode of Things I Learned Last Night. If you're here and you're a little shocked because you've been watching ASMR videos all night and you woke up to the sound of my laughter, let me help you out real quick and join back in the ASMR. One thing that would help us a lot in the algorithm is if you left some comments or some reviews if you're on the podcast app. We'd really appreciate that, and it would help us grow this show. So thanks for your support. But if not, and you're just here trying to sleep, I hope I interrupted it. But here's another advertisement. Well, Charles Manson just straight up says he was a member of the Process Church.
Okay.
The son
Do
of...
they claim him?
They
did.
Questionable.
Okay.
So there is allegedly, whenever Charles Manson was convicted, there's allegedly documentation where members of the Process Church went to the police station to give their reports on him. And the police station said, we don't want your reports. And they said, but we know about him. And they said, we don't want your reports. And then they left. And that was that. Similar thing with the son of Sam. There is allegedly documentation where the son of Sam, because I don't know how familiar you are with the son of Sam cases, but there is a very large swath of people that strongly believe that the son of Sam did not act alone. At the time and today. And so they think that there was multiple other people involved in the murders that he committed, but he was the only one who took the blame. And there's some pretty decent evidence that the FBI kind of trashed some evidence that linked back to some other people.
Sure.
And just let the son of Sam take the fall for it. And especially his case it's hard to believe he could have pulled off what he pulled off alone.
Sure.
Because it seemed like, anyways. And I'll say this. There's a FOIA report, a 175-page FOIA report on
Son of Sam?
On the Best Friends Society.
Okay.
And it's interesting because in that, the majority of it, probably 120 pages of it, are drawings and marketing material that the church put out that are pretty faded, hard to read. The rest of it is internal memos with the FBI studying the Process Church in the early days, and then the Charles Manson case, the Son of Sam case, and then later the Best Friends Society. In these internal memos, what is interesting in both the Charles Manson case and the Son of Sam case, these are heavily, heavily redacted memos, so it's hard to say for sure what's going on. But it does look like they were, when both those cases happened, the FBI was looking into this organization and beliefs that they were connected to them. And in both cases, there's a point where they said, hey, we've been reviewing this Process Church and their connection to these murders. We believe that, and then it's redacted list of names, were involved. We will not investigate this any further. Here's a list of evidence to be destroyed. And it's like categorized evidence that's supposed to be destroyed.
Okay.
Very strange. Both cases of both murders.
Right.
The church, after this, put out a series of statements saying they weren't involved in any way, like the organization as a whole. And theoretically, the organization might not have been, but there may have been some members, because now it's getting like relatively large, the organization. But started facing some heat for this, obviously. And this is now, we're into the 70s. There is the satanic panic is starting to spread, because there was a lot of these cults that thought Satan was the good guy and were really hyped on the devil. They actually...
Hyped on the devil.
Yeah. They actually...
sold out for Satan.
Dare to devil.
Were you going dare to share? Is that what you were doing?
I was. I was going to go dare to die, but that was dare to devil. I don't know. Anyway, the church themselves, they had put out a documentary called Sympathy for the Devil.
Okay.
And so like they they
genuinely were like, it wasn't like they started a cult, like a church to be like, just evade taxes. Like they were believing what they were. Okay.
It's questionable. We'll touch on that again in a second. But what we need to know is there was a larger public zeitgeist that was against this stuff.
Sure.
And it was starting to really take shape. And so the church, all of a sudden, after the potential connections to the murders came out, so they weren't, nobody involved at the church got convicted of anything. They were publicly denied any connection. And according to the FBI, they like threw out all connection to them.
Sure.
Being a part of it. Whether or not they really were, it's a little bit of a gray area. It seems like the public consensus is that they weren't, but I don't know. It's gray.
Sure.
It's gray. So the church, Mary Ann decides, hey, we need to start campaigning, like, we've got some bad press here. And so she starts saying, we should get rid of all the devil stuff.
Yeah.
We should
bring in some puppies.
She says we should just do all the Jesus stuff. Like we should just be a Christian church. And so she starts saying we should rebrand again and get rid of all the devil stuff, get rid of all the Satan stuff.
Which is a pretty hard sell. I feel like if you went to a church now, you're like, let's just get rid of the Jesus stuff. Let's just go hail Satan.
Yeah, kind of. And so she campaigns that they change pretty much everything.
She's campaigning that, would you characterize what she's campaigning as like saying we should, she went to the group. She's like, guys, we're going one direction. We should We should pull a 180 and go the other.
Yeah.
We should repent.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And so she says,
was right.
She says that
you should repent. Not enough strong teaching these days. I'll tell you what. I'm so sick of these mamsy-pamsy preachers out here too afraid to call you out for your sin. You should repent. That's the way.
So she was like, we should rename to the Foundation Church of Christ and forget all the Satan stuff, do all the Jesus stuff, and start to look more Christian. And
so they're just doing it for the money.
George was not hyped about this idea.
Yeah, he was like, I actually do love
George
Satan.
was like, we love
this isn't a religion. This is a relationship that I have with our dark Lord.
And so this splintered the relationship between the two of them. They were married. I don't know if I mentioned this yet. They got married. They ended up getting a divorce.
Okay.
He goes off and I kid you not, goes off. He studies aliens. He studies Satan, angels, and dolphins. I don't know why those 4 specifically, but he says these 4 things I'm going to devote the rest of my life towards.
The rest of my life.
For aliens.
Well, it's because angels and dolphins speak the same language. That's actually overlooked a lot in a lot of biblical translations. It's like all the 1,000 eyes and wings and stuff, and also you know?
Yeah.
That sounded more like
he literally claims, I'm not even kidding, he claims that he was meditating once and speaking to some dolphins while he was meditating, and they told him that the way that they keep records is with clamshells. So the curves you see on a clamshell, that's their language. They're keeping records on clamshells, and that's how they pass down information from generation to generation.
Clams are their money.
Yeah, so he gets crazy. But Marianne goes on, and she's running this church, and she says, what happens next is foggy. But they're here, and she obviously was always an animal person.
He's out talking to the dolphins now. He's gone.
He's talking to the dolphins. He's gone.
Okay.
The church is very splintered at this point. There's not a lot of unity with the church. She's got the Christian church. There's still some devil people out there, but she is doing her thing. And there is a through line from this organization from the beginning. There's a story in Religion News of a kid who grew up in the church.
Okay,
and one of their teachings was that they didn't believe in like the traditional family. And so they all lived in communes. And so the kids were the community's kids. They weren't just, it wasn't like, this is my parents. It was like, I'm part of the community. And so everybody was raised by the whole community.
Sure.
And apparently they were relatively abusive. Not enough to get convicted, but like they weren't good to the kids, you know?
Right.
And the kids always talked about that they were, that the animals were always treated better than they were.
Sure.
And so animals were always very important for this organization. They were always vegan and stuff like that. And so it seemed like a natural next step for them to start this animal refuge. They start the refuge, honestly, kind of just to take care of all their animals. And they realize they've got something here. So they start as a side ministry of the church, advertising this other area that you could donate to help. And as the story goes, this worked so much better than the church. They said we could put some sad dogs on a piece of paper and people will throw money at us.
Yeah.
And so they were like, okay, we're the Best Friends Animal Society now. And this was actually the latter half of that FOIA report was the FBI investigating them for white collar crime, that they just became this 501(c)(3) to get donations. And this was their cover story for it because they found that it was really easy to get a lot of donations this way. Again, there's all these internal memos, all this investigation, heavily redacted. But at the end, they say, we've decided to close this case, destroy all this evidence, and a list of everything to destroy. So whether that means they got to the end of it, realized, okay, I don't think we got anything here.
Yeah, because this is like a real operation. They're actually taking care of animals or what?
Yeah, or they said, oh, like, there's nothing here.
I did take our macaw to this place, and then it came back, and every morning now it goes, hail our dark Lord. What was that? Hail the dark Lord.
Here's what's crazy, though.
I had to bring a priest to my house.
He baptized the macaw.
Yeah, he's doing. But he does that because the cats. It's all an irony.
Yeah, it's none of it is true.
Hail Satan.
I listened to an interview of a
local.
local.
Demonetized. Gosh, we gotta quit doing this, man.
From a local, and a local from Kanab. She talked about
a local lady.
She was convinced that, take this with a grain of salt, that the animals were taking in the animals for their sacrifices to the Dark Lord.
Sure.
And that they were doing the white collar crime. It was easy for them to campaign for money. They were getting $1 million donations from celebrities. They were doing
animal sacrifices.
And they were using that to fund all the stuff that they wanted. Because they have bought a very large portion of this valley for this. It's much larger than what you see in that picture. They just own all this land outside of it.
Okay.
They're not doing anything with it. Except for building this really cool hotel, I guess.
It's a really cool hotel.
It's just really sick hotel.
And dog casino. Where they bet with their bones. I'll put a couple chips down for this.
My dog went to this hotel and he came back with a gambling addiction.
Yeah. Comes back to the room at 2 a.m. with a cigar hanging out of his mouth.
My dog is 400,000 bones in debt.
That's how he sounds when he breathes now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if obviously Best Friends has come out to talk about this and they say, hey, the organization that our founder was a part of prior to founding Best Friends is separate. It should not be considered part of what we do. Like, we're a completely different organization. And they do very clearly do a lot for animals.
Sure.
And they do very clearly have a legitimate operation that is, doing what they claim to be doing in the 501(c)(3) papers. Whether they're skimming something off the top, I don't know. It doesn't, the FBI didn't pursue anything. So it looks like they probably aren't. If they have a basement where they're doing sacrifices, who's to say? We don't know. But what we do know is the background of the Best Friends Animal Society is a little sketch. Their logo's better now, though, I should say.
I was just about to ask, what's the logo now?
Their logo is very different. It's it's kind of like, honestly, do you remember the 90s? Like, just in general?
Yeah.
Now, do you remember, like, in the 90s, all those nonprofits that ran ads in kids' shows?
Yeah.
That's kind of what this logo feels like. This feels like a kids' television nonprofit logo.
Yeah.
But honestly, like, if you wanted to, I bet you could
make that look like a swastika.
Oh, well, I was going to say make that look like Satan.
Yeah, if you really want to.
If you squint enough, that's what the devil looks like in my brain. Now, it's honestly, Best Friends, the organization, probably, most likely, pretty legitimate organization.
Doing their stuff.
Their
founders happen to be a cult leader.
Very sketchy background. But, what are you going to do? Sometimes people worship the devil and then they go on to do great things.
Yeah, but that's a hazard of anything, honestly. Is that people who were involved in sketchy stuff in the 60s and 70s, they're still around.
Yeah, and they're doing stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure most of our politicians were into Satan stuff.
I don't know if that's something. Do you want to leave that out there? You want to put that out there? Okay.
I'm sure most of them were.
Like, sure. A lot of people watching this right now are like, were? And that's the problem.
Yeah, well, it's okay.
All right. Who specifically do you think? Let's name them.
Yeah, let's start just tossing them out there.
No, you don't want to do it? That's what I thought. Okay.
Hey,
all right. Well,
what are you gonna do?
Let's book this is added to our TILLN road trip that we got to get going.
Yeah, we could stop by.
So
we can stop by for sure. Bring a pet. I'll be the pet in your room.
Yeah, we'll fiddle off on that, I guess. Golly. What are you talking about? Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Things I Learned Last Night. If you like this and you want more cult stuff, we've got an episode about Aleister Crowley, who's like the king of cults. He had his fingers, his toes, every portion of his body in so many different cults, just dipping his hand in all the stuff going on. So that's available to check out. There's a link for it in the description of this episode or wherever you're watching or listening. Again, the best way to help us grow our show is to, one, support us on Patreon. But if you're not able to do that or don't want to do that, the very easy and free way to support our show is to leave a comment on YouTube or a review on whichever podcast app you're listening. I cannot express to you how much it helps get this in front of new people, and we're just really thankful that you're here. So we'll see you again next week on Things I Learned Last Night. Things I learned last night.